Good morning, friends. It is good to be here with you this morning. Thanks for joining us this morning for Journey Home Meditation's Morning Sit. I am Michael. I'm going to be leading us through this practice this morning. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here with you today. The year is seeming to just quicken. We're almost to the end of this year. And that's a shocking and I'm almost disturbing thing, how quickly everything can just seem to pass us right by. Especially, I think, when we are in a bit of survival mode. And I don't really know anybody who's not in survivor mode right now. I'm sure there are people. I'm sure they're out there. I just don't know who they are. But I was thinking about that this morning. You know, time is something that I end up talking about often on these morning practices, because it seems that time is one of those elements that are always in short supply in the mornings. You know, I've patterned my life in such a way, and I'm sure that many of you can relate to this, that my time is not always my own entirely. Of course, it's my responsibility, and of course, it's my choices, and I can always be present in the moment that exists, and we'll talk about what that could look like. But so far as responsibilities and obligations and commitments that we have, it's not always our own. Time is not always ours. We find ourselves in a lot of times sharing space, sharing that time with others. And I think that as social creatures, not only is this a given that it's going to happen, I think that it's necessary for us that this happens. I truly feel that while there are some people who really can thrive in a completely or mostly, isolated existence, and when I say isolated, I mean from social situations, from many or more than a one or two or any humans in some ways, but it's very rare. It's very rare. We tend to idolize these characters and then idealize their lives, right? We make the myths out of these characters that go off and live in the cave, right? We always have the story of the master meditator who meditates in the cave, and his body's been in samadhi for 200 years. Yeah, sure. These things may have happened. But as a whole, and when I'm speaking to you right now, and if you're hearing this, and if I'm talking about my own experience, I can say with no small level of assurity that I am a social being. I require interactions, if only to receive the things that I need to live, right? My food, my shelter, and then the other really important elements to our lives that we often want to forego, or that we think are not as important. Human touch. I require another human for human touch, for affection, uh, attention, having someone look at you and see you and give you their attention, and looking at someone else and being able to give them your attention. I think these are needs. I think this is not a luxury. I think these things are required for our balance and for our well-being. And I think this is why we use isolation as one of the most cruel and severe forms of punishment that one human can give to another. I think it's a practice that needs to be abolished personally, but there's no healing in that isolation, right? Because I do think that um, just as water and air, food and shelter are necessities for life, I believe that well-being is also a necessity. And that can look like a lot of different things. We talk about wellness. There's a whole wellness industry that exists. There's a whole industry that on the notion that you are not well, uh, and exploits this idea that you could be more well. You could be weller. you, you could be uh, even better than you are, which if you're not better than you are, then you're not good enough. This idea is pretty predominant in the internet world of self-help, and I recognize the alignment that Journey Home Meditation has um, with a lot of these other programs. I recognize when I see the suggested um, listens on the podcasting things that Spotify or Apple or whatever, wherever you can find this broadcast as a podcast. It suggests some other listens, and I listen to them, and I love. So many podcasts that I just love. There's so many that are just so fulfilling and enriching. Um, The Way Out is in the Plum Village podcast. Listen, another Plum Village podcast. Uh, Ram Dass Here and Now, fantastic. Talks by Ram Dass over the years. On Being with Kristen Tippett, and Poetry Unbound with Padre Kotuma. Like these are some of my daily listens, really. But there are some out there that are still pushing this idea that if you're uncomfortable with your life, if you're uncomfortable in your body, that you just aren't doing the right kind of work. There's another kind of work for you. And they, whether they're selling something for financial gain or whether they're just perpetuating the idea, and a lot of times we perpetuate the ideas that we believe in. We don't perpetuate them for profit in a financial sense. We do perpetuate them to sort of solidify the value of that idea in our own mind. This is where the evangelical sort of impetus comes from, is I need you to believe in this as well so that you can see how valid I am, right? And there's evangelical pretty much everything. You ever talk to somebody about their favorite TV show? Oh, you have to watch it. Oh, you haven't seen that? You have to. You haven't seen Abbott Elementary? Oh my gosh, you have to watch it. It's amazing. And it is. It's a great show. I love it. It's a lot of fun. But this evangelical thing that we do, this proselytizing, I think it's there to there's there's the old saying, misery loves company, but it's not only misery, everything loves company, right? Um, we like to not be alone because we are social beings. But this notion that you can be more well, You just aren't necessarily doing the right thing. I think that this comes from our desire not just for happiness, but our desire to not be uncomfortable because we don't, I don't want to say enjoy, but I can say enjoy. We don't enjoy, we don't thrive, we don't feel like we're thriving when we are uncomfortable. Discomfort seems to be one of the most difficult things for uh, our species to deal with. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. But I do know that we foster this culture of running from discomfort. And all of these elements are in play with this, including time, right? Um, and it's interesting because it's almost, in my experience, almost always time is making me feel uncomfortable. You know, when I think about it in terms of running out of time, not having enough time, being late for something, having to get onto a schedule for something, all of these different ways that I relate to time sort of foster this discomfort, this feeling of scarcity, which is like anxiety, stress. And then we sort of function on that level of crisis all day. Um, but it's not just time, it's money, it's food, it's shelter, it's safety, and it's also acceptance and human touch. We feel the scarcity in any of these things, and it sparks this anxiety, which puts us into survival mode, right? And in survival mode, it's really difficult to enjoy yourself. It's really difficult to stop and watch the sun just sort of move across the sky with your day. Uh, it's difficult to take the time to really enjoy a 20-minute, 30-minute, hour long practice, whatever that is. So we can do things like watch movies or TV shows when we're stressed out because this is keeping our minds busy, right? Busy enough to be away, just far enough away from the discomfort, whether the discomfort is in our physical body, chronic pain, sickness, tiredness, body dysmorphia, um, body dysphoria. Those are two different things. Um, or that uncomfortableness is an awkwardness with a relationship you're having with someone else in the room, a subject you're afraid to approach with the person. Um, Anger is a big one there. Resentment. Um, Sometimes we're just afraid to ask for the affection that we know we need, and so we don't. We're afraid of asking, so we don't ask, and this puts us into this cycle of discomfort that we are constantly getting away from. And time is this really, really loud presence. The tick-tock of time is sort of the countdown for our collapse. Right? We can feel it in our bodies some days. Like at any moment now, it's just gonna break. The levee's gonna break, and it's all gonna come pouring out. But I know that it's okay to be uncomfortable. I know how much this culture tells us it's not and that you should not be. And if you are, it's your fault, it's your failing. It's just you're not doing enough of the work. Do more of the work. The work, everybody knows what the work is, right? Like you got to do the work. But the one thing I know about more is there's never enough more. There's never enough more. if you want to be more comfortable, if you want to be more happy, if you want to be more fulfilled, if you want to be more loved, if you want to be more lovable, if you want to be more loving, more, more, more. There's no end to more. More doesn't have an end. You can't say, I want to be more of something and have that defined, what it is you're looking to do. So there's never enough work. There's always more work, and there's no end to more. But if we can come to that place where we understand that we don't necessarily need more of anything except for our own ability to be with it, our own presence. That's all I really need in this moment. I just need a little bit more presence. And all of a sudden, what I thought was a short amount of time can be a long amount of time. 5 minutes doesn't seem like a long amount of time to a person who has to do 7 different things before they run out the door. But 5 minutes is an awful long time for someone who's watching their breath. You see, there's presence. And I know that in watching your breath, you think, well, I'm not getting all of those things done. Okay, that might be true, but there's something you're not getting done in doing all of those things. And that might just be the foundational element you need to reclaim your experience of time in a healthy way, to not be at war with time, to not have this battle. I work with a lot of people who are dying. Like often I'm working with somebody. Actually, I am always working with someone who is dying because we are all dying. That's a philosophical question for another morning sit maybe, but I'm working with people who know they're dying, who are acutely aware. And some people have a tendency to fight for time. I just want more time. I need more time. I haven't had enough time. And some people understand that the limited amount of time they have left is the gift. That is their time. They're going to spend with it. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna refers to himself as time. It's this amazing thing. But it's just one element of all these elements of our needs, right? It's just one way that we are interpreting our existence. And I read a couple poems this morning, and both of them were oddly enough very, very strikingly related to this notion of these things I'm talking about right now. And I already had this idea in my head that this is what I wanted to discuss when I picked up these 2 different poetry books sitting at this desk and just found these 2 poems. So I like the way that this works, how they work together. The first is a poem by poet Adrian Rich. This is from a book called Sisters of the Earth. I'm going to hold it up to the screen so you can see the title. This is a collection of poems it's women's prose and poetry about nature. And it's got a really awesome collection of writers in here. And Adrian Rich wrote this poem. It's called Contradictions, Tracking Poems, Part 18. The problem, unstated till now, is how to live in a damaged body, in a world where pain is meant to be gagged, uncured, ungrieved over. The problem is to connect without hysteria the pain of any one's body with the pain of the body's world. For it's the body's world they are trying to destroy forever. The best world is the body's world, filled with creatures, filled with dread, misshapen so, yet the best we have are raft among the abstract worlds, and how I longed to live on this earth, walking her boundaries, never counting the cost. It's a beautiful poem. It's a beautiful poem. The problem unstated till now is how to live in a damaged body in a world where pain is meant to be gagged. Yeah, I think that that's it right there. We are told repeatedly that we are not supposed to be uncomfortable, yet we are uncomfortable often. We are told we're not supposed to feel pain. Pain is bad, but we know that pain is inevitable. We know this. So it doesn't make any sense to me. And it's the same uh, view of death that keeps us so afraid of it, that we're not supposed to die. You know, oh, they were so young. They were so young. Well, nobody has ever promised anybody to live to a certain date. We just live until we don't live. And that may sound callous, but it's not. It's not. It's very raw. It's very tender. You know, that's very open to understand exactly that we live until we don't. Our bodies will die. That is not a calloused view at all. I believe it's calloused to continue rubbing ourselves against death in this way where we are terrified of it. That's what builds calluses. But this poem, she's saying the problem is it's hard to live in a broken body, a damaged body, painful body in a world that wants pain to be gagged. So if that's true, then we're always living in some sort of a problem. Our body is a problem. Our aging is a problem. Our relationships are a problem. The work is a problem. My sleep is a problem. My diet's a problem. All of these things are problems because all of these things relate to and inherently revolve around having a body that feels pain, having a body that gets sick, having a body that dies. Those are the things the Buddha talked about. This is what our body is going to do. Our body is as such that it will get sick. Our body is as such that it will die. Yeah. So shifting my relationship to my own pain and my own discomfort, that's really big. It's not about not being uncomfortable. It's about being okay with being uncomfortable, being okay to have a down time, being okay to feel pain is okay. Pain's okay. Don't suffer pain every time. It's not necessary. It's necessary to feel pain, but it's not necessary to suffer it. Now, I've been using this Shakti mat. I'm sure that you maybe have seen ads for this if you're on social media at all, which if you're seeing this, you probably are on social media right now. Uh, but this thing called the Shakti mat is an acupressure mat. It's a small mat about the size of an average adult human's torso, I guess. I don't know what the average size of the adult human's torso is, but uh, and it's covered in these little spikes, these little discs that have spikes on them, and it's meant to sort of recreate the bed of nails, the famous bed of nails that we hear about coming from the ancient Orient, the mystical East, right? Uh, these yogis lie on a bed of nails, you know, but these mats are emulating that. And the purpose for the bed of nails is not to be a sideshow attraction. The purpose is the exact purpose of these Shakti mats to create these pressures in the body on different parts to work with our central nervous system, right? Our body, the skin of our body is one big breathing living organ that is full of all of these little receptors. They receive input and they send all these messages. And the notion of these acupressure mats is to sort of tap into these systems of discomfort and help us to reset, in a way, our central nervous system around our notions of discomfort. At least that's what it's doing for me. I lie on it for 20 minutes each evening, and the first 3 to 7 minutes is pretty hard, pretty gnarly. It's pretty hardcore. Uh, the first 3 minutes is almost excruciating. Every fiber of my body is saying, "You got to get out of here." And it's funny the way that it works. It doesn't say to me, "Okay, this hurts. You got to leave. This is bad. You're in danger." What my body starts to say to me is, "Oh, um, you forgot to rinse your dish. You should probably get up and go rinse your dish after you ate." Or, "Oh, did you brush your teeth before you lied down? Because if you're going to be going to sleep after this, you want to probably get up and go brush your teeth." Or, "Hey, didn't you want to grab some poetry books to put into your bag? You should do that now so you don't have to do that in the morning." These are the messages my body starts receiving in the first 3 to 5 minutes on this Shakti mat. And it's any way that my mind can tell my body to get out of there, because my whole being is saying, this is not comfortable. This is not comfortable. And I need to not be uncomfortable. But then as I sit and I breathe and I become okay with the feeling, you feel this very palpable release. Like you can almost hear the body relax into it. And it's not going to damage you in any way. These aren't piercing the skin. They're not going to cause harm. Um, and so once you recognize what's happening, you relax into it, and this flood of oxytocin sort of overcomes the body, and you just can start releasing emotions and just really move into a deep samadhi, really like a deep meditation. And I'll be there. Sometimes I set timers because I've fallen asleep on the mat for hours in the past. So I set a timer to go off after 20 minutes because that's, I think, a good sweet spot for me. And I will, after about 5 minutes, by the time 20 minutes comes, I'll be in this deep dream world. I won't even recognize what's happening. It's pretty phenomenal. And I'm really grateful for the Shakti mat. So you can look that up. SHAKTI mat, Shakti mat. They're really an amazing tool. And I've actually got some that we'll be utilizing here at Journey Home for different meditation practices. As soon as the Beside opens up, which will be probably the first of the year, we'll have the Beside completely ready. Maybe before then. So keep your ear to the ground if you want to come in for some in-person practices. That wasn't really a commercial for anything. I was just sharing one thing that's teaching me how to be uncomfortable with myself, and the benefits of that. And it really is helping me on a mental level to be able to withstand some discomfort longer so that I can be present with the discomfort in my relationships, fighting with my teenager, uh, having stress come about with bills and finances, something I'm sure we can all relate to. And if you can't relate to having stress over bills and finances, feel free to donate to Journey Home Meditation. Send me a message if you'd like. But having a practice that practices discomfort, being with it, not necessarily creating it, but it's okay if it does. It's okay if it does. So the last poem is going to end us for today before we take a few moments to have a few breaths together. And this is a poem by the poet Ross Gay. I'm going to put that on the screen there, from his book Against which is his first major publication of poems. Ross Gay is from the Midwest, born in Ohio, I believe, and now lives in Indiana. So just like me, born in Ohio, lived in Indiana. Um, and he's a phenomenal poet. And this is the final poem in the book against which it's called Thank You. If you find yourself half naked and barefoot in the frosty grass, hearing again the earth's great sonorous moan that says you are the air of the now and gone, that says all you love will turn to dust and will meet you there, do not raise your fist. Do not raise your small voice against it, and do not take cover. Instead, curl your toes into the grass. Watch the cloud ascending from your lips. Walk through the garden's dormant splendor. Say only thank you. Thank you. Lord, what a powerful poem. And just feel the cold air on my body standing in this Midwestern winter, bared naked in the garden. You know, I see my breath leaving my body in these vapor clouds. And Ross Gay just nailed it with this poem. Say only thank you. Thank you. And I think there's some confusion sometimes when we talk about practicing gratitude, as if we're denying injustice by practicing gratitude, or as if we are ignoring discomfort because we're practicing gratitude. And I don't find that to be my truth at all, not a bit. In fact, I think that in practicing gratitude, it prepares me to turn the tide of injustice. It prepares me to take action, to bring more comfort to the discomforted, right? Those who are suffering in the cold and the wet, to bring them dry clothes, a blanket, and a hot beverage, right? A warm hug. To stand up to those who are so cold in their own closing of their hearts that they can make laws to bring others into peril, right? We need to stand up to say, hey, that's not going to happen today. Like, we need to take action. We need to come together and we need to stand up for those who are downtrodden or abused or oppressed. And that includes us. We're not separate. We're not helping from a separate place. This is what's really important about learning to be uncomfortable, is to understand we are in the same place. We are the same people. And we need to be able to help guide and steer this humanity towards kindness, towards compassion, towards love. And we can only do that when we are okay with not looking away from discomfort, when we are not looking away from pain, when we are not turning away from that which is calling us into action. So this is not about withdrawing. This is about engaging. Right? Thich Nhat Hanh talks about engaged Buddhism, right? Activated Buddhism. And this is what we're talking about here, not just Buddhism, but we're talking about activated and engaged humanity. But to do that, we have to be okay with being uncomfortable. We have to be okay with strong smells. We have to be okay with watching pain exist right in front of us. We have to be okay with wounds and filth so that we can come in to help heal wounds. We can tend to wounds. We can tend to those who are suffering, including ourselves. Tend to your own suffering. Tend to your own pain. But to do that, you have to be comfortable sitting with it. No more running away from it. No more turning away from it. No more ignoring it and watching Abbott Elementary instead of feeling pain. Watch Abbott Elementary when you're joyful and you want to have some fun and enjoy a good TV program with someone you love. But don't think that you have to do everything in your life to escape pain. And that's really difficult for some to hear. And I know a lot of people with chronic illnesses that say, my life is pain, and I don't think I have to feel that. You are correct. You don't have to suffer that pain. But what we do have to do is learn that if this is my body and this is my life, I need to learn how to love it as it is. And in loving it, in loving my life, I can transform my relationship to time, transform my relationship to suffering, transform my relationship to pain. That is a possibility. If your pain's not going away, why spend all of your energy running away from it? I'm open to receiving your input on this. I would love it. You can email me at journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. But before we go, how about just a few breaths together? And I'm going to facilitate that today with a little bit of music. Just some nice sound of the gong. So find your meditation posture in this moment, just facilitating the breath to make the breath easier. Straightening the spine as much as you can, opening your chest just a bit. Shoulder blades together, slightly in the back, palms facing upward. Resting gently on your lap, feet to the floor or legs crossed. Allow the eyes to close if you can, breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. And fully releasing. And breathing in. And breathing in. Find your rhythm, fully breathing in, fully breathing out. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Stay here as you feel the release of tension in the body. That tension is the place you've been holding against something. That's your resistance. Breathe until you have openness. Sit with whatever it is you're experiencing and name it if you'd like. But see if you can release the story you have around it. The story of, oh, I always hurt. And the story of, yeah, that's my bad knee. See if you can release that story. Not that the knee is not going to feel pain, because it is, but changing our story that we tell ourselves and the world about our pain is an important step. Yes, there is pain. And because of my pain, I become more tender towards that part of my body. And that puts me in a place of being a caregiver. I'm taking care of something. I'm tending to it instead of rejecting it and fighting against it. So I walk a little slower and I'm a little more gentle. And I understand what I can and can't do. That's being careful, full of care. And that can extend beyond what we give to ourselves. That's what we give to the world. We take care of ourselves because we love ourselves. We are grateful for the body. We love the body. We are grateful for the body's world, as Adrian Rich calls it. And if we aren't grateful for the body's world that causes pain sometimes, then we will destroy that world. So we must find our gratitude. We must find our love. We must find our ability to be with what is discomforting so that we can sustain this planet, sustain this world. We must love it. We must love one another. It's a must. It's a need. It's not an option. Thanks for joining this morning. Extra long sit today. I guess there was a lot in me that wanted to come out, and I appreciate anybody who wants to engage with that. If you'd like to join me one morning on camera, on microphone, I would love to share this space with you. Just reach out to me, journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. My name is Michael. Thanks for joining today. Hariom.